All right, hello Ling 341. It's been a while since we've done one of these videos, but I wanted to do this for basically completeness' sake and also possibly because it could help you as you prepare for the final exam, which is currently ongoing. So we're going to go kind of into the Wayback Machine here, I guess, and look at the vowel transcription exercise, which was actually due almost, I think, a month ago. March 24th. All right, it's April 19th, so we're within the month window statute of limitations there. So hopefully this will be helpful in some way. But we did, if you recall, look at Turkish and also one variety of British English from the northern part of the UK. So I'm just going to do Turkish in this particular video. I'll walk you through the exercises. And as usual, I've grabbed 11 transcriptions for the exercises at random. And that's going to be kind of relevant here, the randomness part of it, because you might recall that the first five basically form a minimal set, where the only thing different between the five is in the vowel, and they all begin with an aspirated K and end with an S. So that is supposed to help you kind of focus on the vocalic portion of these items. And it's also, you might remember that I transcribed these as like item 1, item 2, item 3, so on and so forth. And the reason why is because we looked at this minimal set in the lecture on the vowels around the world for Turkish. There's more than 5 in a minimal set. You can get 8 altogether here. And I didn't want to give you the sort of translations of the different forms, because then you could kind of, if you made the connection in your head, you could just go back to this slide and just figure out what the vowels are supposed to be. But yeah, maybe we can just listen to this again as long as we're here, and just refresh our memories of what these vowels sound like.
Kiss, küs,
But the fun part is
kız, kus,
there is a 4-way distinction amongst the high vowels, which is pretty cool. And then we have 3 mid, high, mid, low vowels.
kes, kös,
I guess you could just say mid.
kos,
And this one low vowel,
kas,
Kos. Even though the way this guy says it, it sounds more midish,
kas,
a little bit like a cuss. Anyways, let's go to these exercises. I'll just keep the example files up here for reference's sake in case we want to look at them. In the examples, you might also recall there were a number of like devoiced R's at the tail end of the words. Devoiced sonorants in general, because there's devoiced L's too, but we'll just set those aside and focus on the vowels, like I said. So let's listen to these first 5. And since these are transcriptions I've grabbed from different people, they're not necessarily going to be consistent. But hopefully this will kind of give us a sense of what this speaker's vowel space sounds like or looks like if we take a look at his formants.
kös,
And
küs, kas, kus, kes.
yep, so those are our first 5. So let's go back to number 1. I've got my own little cheat sheet of what I think the key is here, hiding behind the prod object window. But let's take a look at this first one. It's transcribed here as this unrounded oo vowel, the kind of upside down M looking thing.
Kös, kös.
And I'll just play that particular vowel.
Kö, 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 kö.
And yeah, you might hear, I can understand why you might hear that as an unrounded ooh. But one thing to look at here is sort of the spacing of F1 and F2. And maybe I'll turn those on. I think this should be pretty easy to try. Yeah, I'll turn that back off. Every time you think it should be easy to track, it's not easy. And one of the problems with these recordings is that they're a little bit noisy. But here's our F1 here, about 484. F2 is 1530. And F3 is right above that there. Let's compare that one to, say, what we got for number 4.
Kus, kus,
All right, and I'm picking this one because it sounded backish and highish to me.
put, kus, kus.
Kus, kus. So it's supposed to be an oo. You might hear that as maybe even an upsilon.
Kus,
But
kus.
this is supposed to be the high back rounded version there, right? And one of the reasons we know that it's high back or back really is because F2 is lower. So if I can click on that. So F2, when it's in a lowish kind of state, is about 1150 for this speaker. Compare that, I think, to number 2.
küss, küss, küss,
So this is that Y vowel. So whoever transcribed it here got the one I was thinking of. It's U, that high front rounded vowel.
küss,
And yeah, if you know, these are probably going to fall in the same category for you if you're a native speaker of English, U and so on and so forth. This might sound like an upsilon to you as well,
küss,
kus, but it's that front rounded vowel, and this F2 is going to be higher for that reason because it's fronter. 1667. For a back vowel, it's 1153. If we go back to number one, we're like something around 1450, 1500 hertz or so for that F2. So it's fronter than our back vowel. It's not quite as front as this high front rounded vowel U. And the reason is because we're a little bit lower in the vowel space as well. So F1 is going to be a little bit higher, about 535 or so for this U vowel, the high front rounded vowel, a little bit, probably a little bit over 400, something like that. So it's a little bit lower, a little bit backer. What this one is that O with the circle through it vowel, this guy.
küss,
And I don't think these two speakers say it exactly the same way. This guy sounds a bit more legit at me, that
küss, küss, küss,
like round your lips on top of an A vowel.
küss, küss, küss,
Kus, that vowel. Yeah, these, like I said, these recordings are a little bit noisy, so I should probably make better ones someday. But I know there's plenty of Turkish speakers around. Just got to ask one. But what I'm looking for here is this guy. Maybe I can make this bigger. I'm sure I can make this bigger. And I'm kind of spilling the beans here on some of these other ones too. So number 3, I don't think this one was too controversial because it's that low vowel.
Kos.
And here's our F1 for the speaker is about 670, so that's lowish. F2 is 1204, so that's backish.
Kos.
And they come together more or less. And number 5, I think it's the last one we have to worry about.
Kes.
And you can just transcribe that one as epsilon, like this guy.
Kes.
And I think that one's relatively uncontroversial. And we got that for our candidate transcription here as well. Just the one we're missing here. So number 4 is ooh, it's back, not front. And this one for number 1 is rounded and fronter. So O with a line through it. Let's listen to some of these others, knowing that I kind of showed you what the transcriptions are already. But number 6.
Doğru.
Yeah, so with this one, we can
Doğru.
take a look at it in spectrogram form and also maybe listen to it. So we have this kind of rhotic here in the middle, which is interesting. This person transcribed it as a voiceless and there's good reason for doing so because I gave you so many voiceless ers here in the first part of this exercise. But it's not really an So you can see F3 here, hanging tight for most of it. It goes down maybe a little bit here and pops into this rhotic.
Doğru.
That's just more of a flap, basically, like an alveolar flap. And F3 is going to go down for that as well, but it's not really an approximate because you can kind of see this fading out of the intensity, which is typical of flaps and just goes by. It's just one tap. So I'd transcribe it like that. Let's see if I can, so like this. And then the other parts of this are interesting. So at the tail end of this, we do have that high back unrounded vowel. Turkish speaker is going to be better at producing it than me. But so our F2 again is 1150 or so. And F1 winds up being a little bit higher maybe. So it might be kind of lower in the vowel space. But that's and then this first vowel, I hear it as an O. It's maybe a little bit ambiguous between O and open O. I think it's supposed to be this open O because that's what kind of fits into the rest of the vowel system. I hear it as being high enough to be open O. So that would be sort of a question of where the F1 is for that one, about 470 hertz. Not as high as what we got for the U, but just a second ago, but it's still pretty high. I'm not going to get super picky on those two, that issue, because those are pretty close to one another, but
Dor.
this one at the end is the unrounded again, I should just let him speak for himself, not me. All right, number 7, we've got a candidate transcription of that high front rounded vowel.
Doom.
Oh, and I guess I'll mention as well, I should actually put this in my sort of key transcription, but I didn't. If you go back to number 6, talking about all those devoiced segments, this first stop is not actually voiced. And since we've been through the sort of rest of the lectures by now, you can see it pretty easily in the spectrogram and in the waveform here. There's no closure voicing during the stop phase at the beginning. You just kind of go from silence or background noise to just the release burst at the start here. Release burst at the start, not the stop. Yeah, so that's a voiceless D, but you might hear it as a D.
Doro.
You could transcribe that theoretically as just like that T symbol as well.
Doro.
And then if we compare that to number 7, we get a little bit of voicing here at the beginning, and maybe you can hear it. It's really low frequency, like that. So it's not really prominent, but
Doom.
this one's actually voiced.
Doom.
And then you get a little bit of aspiration here.
Doom.
We'll just like roll on through that. And then what's the vowel? That's kind of the crucial point here. The person who gave us the candidate transcription got this one right. It's that high front rounded vowel. And then what they didn't miss, because this is not a high quality recording, or didn't catch because it's a high quality recording, there's a bit of an M there. Doom. Okay, I gotta stop doing that. Doom. So high front rounded tense vowel here in the middle, followed by an M, and so that gives you a transcription like that. I've also transcribed that U as long. We can kind of compare that to the other U we got. I think it was number 2, right? Yeah.
Kuss.
And maybe you can see why transcribing the one in 7 is long. So this one's about 70 milliseconds long, and this one's about 209 milliseconds long, so it's almost 3 times as long, right? That's why I included that diacritic there. It's a relative thing, but it's clearly longer than the other one. So there are options for this sort of thing in at least this speaker's version of Turkish. All right, so let's look at number 8. And listen to it as well.
Sigh.
So we've got this here, and then it transitions at the tail end in a diphthong form. Something higher and fronter than that. So I kind of transcribed it as E, because I think that's what I got from sort of the original source for this exercise. This in this sort of guideline for a guidebook for the vowel system of Turkish. Sorry.
Kiss.
I'm transcribing that high front vowel, unrounded vowel as I.
Sigh.
You could do the same here. I don't have a problem with that. I transcribed it as the tense version, but it's kind of tenser, maybe just not that high, maybe like an A. But it's obviously that sort of I diphthong.
Sigh.
Wherever that the end of it sort of winds up, somewhere in the high front region. I don't know if you hear that. It's more E or A or an I. So I'm going to leave that up to you and say good job, random transcriber from number 8. And we can move on to number 9. I think we'll have the same sort of issue.
Soy.
It's that oi diphthong, very similar to the one in English.
Soy.
I hear that this first part is a little bit higher. O, rather than o. Those two vowels are quite close, but I transcribed it as a regular O. And then the tail end of it is again in that sort of high front region. Soy. And this person transcribed it as the sort of same diphthong we have in English, which I'm not going to get too picky about again. Number 10, though, I do have something to say about that one. Let's take a listen and a look.
Shay.
So this was kind of like that A diphthong in English.
A.
And I transcribed it again with the tense, like ending there. This person transcribed it as different than that, more of a lax beginning, and like kind of close, right? Maybe we can compare it to number 5, see if we get any sort of noticeable difference between the two. So here's our
kes,
S,
kes, kes,
I hear that is a little bit higher, intenser, and then don't really hear it as rounding at the tail end, just kind of the regular shay, with an E type vowel at the tail end, rather than an U vowel as this person has transcribed it. I like the fact that they put the tie bar over the top, though, to indicate that we are dealing with a diphthong. And number 11, we'll listen to that one as well. What do we got here? Köy. Maybe I got that one right. This person transcribed that beginning as the high back unrounded vowel. I think it's the same sort of maybe misclassification as in number 1, because it's the same vowel. That vowel, that mid front rounded, that guy. And then it kind of squeezes up a little bit here. You can see F2 going up, maybe F1 going down a little bit, so it gets fronter. Köy. And I think maybe he's just unrounding it a little bit as he does that, which gives you that sort of pattern in the spectrogram instead of that percept as well. Like an both formants should go up if he does that, and that's in fact what, both formants should go up. So, does F1 go up? Not so much. But that's what you'd expect to happen, is for it to move in that direction. And lastly, I'll just mention, you might hear this as well. I didn't put this in my sort of key transcription for this exercise, but it's a bit of an H at the tail end of this one.
Köy.
And I don't know if that's intended. I don't know my Turkish well enough, but it's there. So if you transcribe that with like an H at the tail end, that's totally phonetically fine. And I don't think he does that in most of these others that end in vowels, like say 7, 8, or 9 were, no, strong one. Like these other diphthongy ones here.
Sigh.
Yeah, not as much of an H, although maybe a little bit of one. That's all I got to say about Turkish. You can hear the H more prominently there. You can see it as well with that sort of dark bar in the turbulence. That's all I got to say about Turkish, though. I'll do the British English one next. And hopefully you got something out of this that's useful to you. And hopefully you'll get more useful stuff out of the next 2 or 3 videos.